To my great-nephew Harry Holdsworth, who I never had the pleasure of meeting, I hereby bequeath my favourite companion of these past 40 years, the African grey parrot answering to the name of Madison. I make this bequest to the aforesaid Harry Holdsworth because he chances to be my only known male relative of an age that I consider suitable, bearing in mind that Madison A. may live to twice his present span, and B., like me, has not been used to females. So ran the early part of Clause 15 of the otherwise conventional last will and testament, in witness whereof Professor George Holdsworth had thereunto set his hand. It went on in great detail about the provisions that great Uncle George had made to ensure that Harry should not be out of pocket by reason of his legacy. "The airfare's paid," Mr. Holdsworth said, "and there's a sum of money to cover the purchase of a large parrot cage and the cost of the creature's food for a year by Uncle George's reckoning. After that time, you're on your own." "For another 40 years?" said Harry in a voice of horror. "You mean I've got to keep this bird and it might live until I'm 50? "Perhaps it'll die before then, darling," his mother said soothingly. "You never know," said his father. "You might actually like the thing. Perhaps it'll talk. Uncle George was a pretty brilliant sort of a chap in his day, I believe. Linguistics, that was his line." "What's linguistics?" said Harry. "The study of language, all about words, in fact. The parrot is sure to have picked up a few." "Perhaps I could take it to school," Harry said, brightening up. "On my shoulder, like that man in Treasure Island." He began to stump around the room, keeping one leg stiff, mouthing, "Arr, me Jim, me lad, arr," and leering dreadfully. "You're not taking it anywhere," said his mother. "This weekend you and Daddy can go and buy a proper parrot cage. I'm not having the thing make a filthy mess all over the house." "It might be house-trained," said Harry hopefully. "Don't be silly, Harry. Birds can't—" "Can't what?" "Well, birds have to—" "They have to do it when they feel like it, your mother means," said Mr. Holdsworth. "Anyway, let's wait and see what's he called?" He looks again at the will. "Madison, that's right. Let's wait and see what Madison's like. He should arrive before too long." And a couple of weeks later, on a Saturday, he did. Of the parrot's time of arrival at London Airport, and now the Holdsworth family waited with mixed emotions. The whole business, both parents felt, was a great nuisance. Couldn't old Uncle George have left the bird to a zoo or something? It wouldn't be so bad, they said to each other, if Harry was wildly excited about it, or even moderately happy. As it was, he just looked gloomy. And gloomy Harry was, as he waited for the ring on the doorbell that would herald the delivery van, bringing his companion of the next 40 years. Buying the cage had been quite fun. There was plenty of money allowed for it, Dad said, so they'd bought a huge one, like a miniature aviary, that hung on a spring from a tall stand. But the more Harry looked at it this morning, its hoppers filled with seed and water, its floor sanded, its door open in readiness, the more he worried. "I bet it bites me," he thought, "and it'll probably smell. And I don't suppose it'll say a word, just screech all day long or say stupid stuff like, 'Hello,' and 'Pretty Polly,' and just keep on saying it till I'm an old man. It isn't even as I liked birds, and I'm certainly not going to like this one." The doorbell rang. Peering into the travelling box, standing now on a table in the sitting room, they could see through the ventilation grill a shadowy shape. No sound came from within, but a scrape of claws on the floor of the box. "He's alive," said Harry. He sounded disappointed. "Let's get the poor old thing out of it," said his father. "He's had a long trip. Open the lid, Harry. He might fly away. Shouldn't think so. After all, he's just flown 3,000 miles. Must be tired. Go on, open it up. Doubtfully, Harry undid the catch and raised the lid. He pulled his hand away sharply, as though the travelling box contained not a parrot, but a poisonous snake. For a moment or two, nothing happened. Then out of the box, in silent, slow motion, there rose a round grey head, with a sharp hooked beak. On either side of the head was a bright, considering, straw-coloured eye. One of those eyes considered Harry carefully, noting his smallish, rather skinny frame, his mop of bright red hair, his jug-handle ears, then levering itself up by gripping the rim of the box with its bill. The parrot climbed out and walked across the table towards him with a rolling sailor's gait. Harry backed away. "It seems to know you," his mother said. "Don't be frightened," said his father. "It won't hurt you." "How do you know?" said Harry. "Put your hand out. See if it'll walk up your arm." "You put your hand out," said Harry. "No, it's your parrot." "Speak to it," said Mother. "Say its name." Harry looked at the bird, which had now stopped at the edge of the table and was standing, looking up at him, his head cocked to one side. All he could think of was what a large, sharp beak it had, and what cruel, curled talons on top of its scaly feet. He shut his eyes tight, put his hand on the tabletop. "Hello, Madison," he gulped nervously. Very gently, the parrot stepped onto Harry's arm. Very gently, it slowly climbed up and perched on his shoulder. Very gently, it nibbled at the lobe of his ear. Harry opened his eyes, and a grin of relief spread over his face. "He likes you," his mother said. "He's nice," said his father. "Hello, Madison," said Harry again, this time in a much more confident voice. The parrot said nothing. "Perhaps he'll talk once he's had something to eat," said Mr. Holdsworth. "Stick him in the cage, Harry. He must be hungry." And indeed, as soon as Harry moved to the parrot cage and stood beside its open door, the bird stepped off his shoulder and waddled inside. It drank thirstily, then settled down to eat, cracking up sunflower seeds in that powerful beak and watching them all with one or other pale, intelligent-looking eye. But despite all their efforts to encourage it, the remainder of the first day it uttered no sound. "Pity," said Mr. Holdsworth that evening. "You'd have thought Uncle George could have taught it to say something in all those years he had it." "I suppose it's just one of those that doesn't," said Harry's mum. "Maybe, just a dumb animal. Well, time you were in bed, Harry. Good night, old chap." "Good night, darling," said his mother. He was halfway up the stairs when he thought he heard a voice calling, "Good night, Harry." "Good night, Dad," he called back. And then it struck him that the voice was somehow different from his father's. More nasal, more twangy. He went back down into the sitting room, but his parents had left and it was empty. Only the parrot sat motionless on its perch. "Madison," said Harry, "did you say something?"